It was the best of times, it was the worst of times. It was the age of wisdom, it was the age of foolishness. One of the best-known lines in literature from Charles Dickens, A Tale of Two Cities, about the world of the French Revolution. Victor Hugo set his masterwork, Les Miserables, in that same world of contrast and turmoil. Les Miserables stormed the Broadway theater in 1987 and became the fourth longest-running Broadway show of all time, closing in 2003. Already there's talk of a return in 2014. The iconic figure of Cosette is instantly recognized around the world. Well, today we'll meet company members from the Champaign-Urbana Theater Company production of Les Miserables, or Les Mis for short, which opens August 1st at the Parkland College Theater. Collaboration lies at the heart of musical theater, and with us today are people who have extensive professional backgrounds in acting, music, and direction. They have joined their talents to bring our community what may be the most popular musical in the world, and is surely one of the highlights of the summer theater season in Champaign-Urbana. As always on Art Now, we'll see the ways this ongoing and unique collaboration enriches not only their own lives, but the lives of our community. Hi, welcome to Art Now, a program where we talk to artists whose work is part of our community. I'm Greg Chu, and I'll be your host. Our guests today are Stephen Fiol, the director of Les Miserables, music director Aaron Kaplan, choreographer Whitney Hayvice, and actor Kyle Polio. Welcome all of you to Art Now. Stephen Fiol has an extensive resume, to mention only a few. He was director of opera and lyric theater at Millikan University in Decatur, where he directed 70 full-length productions, and was director of opera and lyric theater for 21 years. Since 2000, he has directed many productions for the University of Illinois Opera program. Maestro Stephen Crawford, conductor of the New York Metropolitan Opera, considers him a fine artist, a director of uncommon skill and depth of understanding, and a terrific colleague. His recent local productions include last summer's The Game of Love at the Station Theater, which I thoroughly enjoyed, and a review partially adapted from that musical, Theater of Love, performed on Valentine's Day this year at Cranert Uncorked. Stephen, you have an extensive list of credits all over the Midwest as a performer and a director. What brought you to Champaign-Urbana?
My wife. My wife is on the dance faculty here at the University of Illinois, and we originally lived in Decatur, and after our child was born and at age 2, she finally said, "It's your turn to drive." And so I said, that's only fair, and we like the community of Champaign a great deal, and so it seemed a logical move.
Okay, and I did notice one credit for founding director for the Center of International Education. Can you tell us something about that?
Yes, sure. I got caught in what I call affectionately administrative creep. And it was one thing after another, and next thing I knew I had been being an administrator for 10 or 15 years. And they said, okay, before you leave, would you just start this Center for International Education? Which I did, and it's going strong, and it's educating students by sending them abroad for study abroad experiences.
Terrific. Well, we're very pleased to have you here. Music director, our second guest, returns to us from the recent production of The Evil Dead at the Station Theater. Music director Aaron Kaplan is a graduate of the University of Illinois. He's a composer and an arranger for various productions while he's been here, and very soon will be returning to his former high school, Glenbrook North, to join his former teachers as a member of their faculty. Aaron was also the music director for the 2013 Illinois High School Theater Festival production of Memphis, the musical. How have your years in the community shaped you as a performer, director, and teacher, Aaron?
Well, I guess you could say that the majority of my professional experience started in this community once I came here to start undergrad at University of Illinois. And through the various opportunities through the Illinois School of Music and with the local community theaters around and high schools and the great artistic scene that's in Champaign-Urbana, that has really nurtured my professional career as a conductor and a performer and a teacher, and just the passion that that the students and the colleagues that I've been fortunate enough to work with here has really inspired me and taught me a great deal about my strengths and my liabilities as well.
Well, I know you've been real involved with the ISYM program here in the summers. So, in fact, I think did you originate the cello choir?
I originated the cello camp.
Cello camp.
Yeah, the pre-college camp. I was asked by David Allen. He said, "What do you think about an intensive 1-week college camp, pre-college camp for high school students who were serious about pursuing cello?" And I sort of mirrored it after my own cello camps that I'd went to, and we just finished our 5th year.
Oh, terrific! Well, so you're a founding father already.
I guess so. Yeah.
Terrific. Well, I'd like you to meet the choreographer, Whitney Hayvice. Whitney works with ticket services at Cranert Center, and she was also part of that Evil Dead production that I mentioned before. But she also has experience as a performer and a choreographer with several local theater organizations in our community. What are some of the groups and productions that you've worked with, Whitney, and locally?
I've worked extensively with the Champaign-Urbana Theater Company, the Station Theater. I've also choreographed for several area high schools. I actually did the ISYM musical theater camp this summer, so I was a newbie to the program, and it was a great experience. I've also been the dance rehearsal director for the opera program here for one of their productions, and also choreographed a show in Chicago a couple years ago. So.
Wow. Okay. So, and they let you move around this much from Cranert, huh? Well, I think one thread that ran through what I heard from everybody is the way young people in our community are served by all of these people in various ways. And certainly appreciate your contributions to Champaign-Urbana. Okay, well, we're also very pleased to have one of the actors with us. This is Kyle Polio. Kyle has the lead role of Jean Valjean. Valjean? Okay, thank you. Who spends 19 years unjustly imprisoned in the world of Les Miserables. Kyle comes to Urbana from Alvin, Texas, and he's an instructor of voice and piano, a stage director, and he's been part of numerous productions since coming here. He also says that if you're in a room with him, he's always the guy that picks up the drinks.
That's unfair. I just your viewing audience. Let's get this straight.
That should pick up our number of people watching. Well, how long have you been unjustly imprisoned at the University of Illinois, Kyle?
I've been here for 6 years. I'm going into the last year of my doctoral degree. I was here for 2 years for a master's in voice and opera performance, and the previous 4 years I've been here as well, getting the Doctor of Musical Arts degree in voice performance and literature with a focus on stage direction and theater history studies as well.
Mm-hmm. And how did you find us from Alvin, Texas?
For one, this is a fantastic school of music that I've known about for quite some time. And certainly one of the things that I've always loved is the Chicago Symphony Orchestra, and one of their landmark recordings, the great Schulte Beethoven Ninth Symphony, was recorded here in Fillinger Hall. And I didn't quite know where that was at the time when I was young and listening to it, and I did my research on it. And so I was brought here because of Crane Art Center and what it has to offer, and also because my former voice teacher here, Professor Sylvia Stone, and I worked together when I was doing a summer program in Salzburg, Austria.
Stephen, how did being a performer help you become a better director and teacher?
Well, it's people who do it can speak to it more directly. I think it gives one a sense of the breadth of what's required. As a director, it's nice to know from your personal experience what are the difficult moments in a performer's life, what kinds of things to address, how to bring the best out of them, and you reflect back on one's own experiences of good directors working with you, and you sort of steal the best and throw out the worst. So I found that it's been invaluable, and as an educator, it also, having the stature of being able to say, I have done that, is a very useful thing. It gives you cachet.
Well, I know you two have worked a lot with young people, including a stint at Interlochen, is that right?
Yes, five summers. And it was, finally gave it up because it seemed like the semester never ended. I mean, you went right from the end of the semester at the university and you were right away into the summer program, and you came back and you started immediately. And so it became a grind, but what a rich experience.
Well, is there anything from your work with this production that you can point to in terms of drawing on some of that experience?
Sure. From that experience, I mean, actually, the thing that's been very helpful to me for preparing for this show has been not only just reviewing some of the shows of Les Mis that I've seen, and I've had students in professional productions of that, and so I've got a certain affection for the show because of that.
Yeah, I understand you saw the original production.
Yes, one of my students was playing Valjean in that. But reading the novel has been incredibly insightful. But in addition to that, I've lived many years of my life in third world countries. And so understanding poverty is kind of a very important element to this show, because we're dealing with poverty.
Well, and so it indeed seems to be a show that you know, it's always the right time to do this show.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, the world is always in a state.
Yes, it is. Well, a question to throw out to everybody: who inspired you to get involved in theater and music?
Well, all right. I can say that. The first production I was in was when I was a student growing up in India at a boarding school, and we did Brigadoon, and I did Tommy, and that was my first introduction to the world of musical theater. And I came to the States, and from then on I was always interested in theater and activity, and then I've had some mentors along the way who were fabulous, and they sort of really directed me, and I think we all have stories like that we can point to a person here and there along the way that were particularly...
Well, then, thank you. Kyle?
Honestly, I guess I've been on stage since I was 5 years old. I started out in doing community theater in at Alvin Community College, and it was a summer theater, children's theater program, and I did an audition. I went in, and I still remember my very first audition. I recited the words to the Lewis Carroll poem, The Jabberwocky, that 'twas rilling in the slithy toves did gyre and gibble, and I got a line. My first time I auditioned, I got a line. I was 5 years old, and the line I still remember to this day because I say it all the time. And my one line was, I walked across the stage, I think Rumpelstiltskin or something like that walked on and asked me a question, and I said, I don't know. And at that point, I heard laughter coming from the audience, from this space somewhere out there beyond the lights. I heard people laughing at me, and I was hooked. So honestly, I started off in community theater. I used to walk around the house listening to the Metropolitan Opera broadcasts as well, and I would walk around the house and making fun of them and ho-ya-to-hoing my way up and down the stairs. And one day my mom looked at me and said, you know, you don't sound half bad. We should get you into voice lessons. And so that moved me from doing theater and musical theater into doing training to be an opera singer. And since then, I think of a theater space as this wholly magical place where anything can happen. And I love that you go from a black, flat stage into anywhere in the world in any time period, past or present or future, and that has always addicted me, or gotten me addicted to it.
Sounds like you found a home with this, that's for sure.
I know no other home other than the theater.
Whitney, how about you?
Well, I think I really have to thank my grandparents for getting me involved with musical theater as far as creating a love for it in my life. I remember being over at their house watching the old Rodgers and Hammerstein musicals, you know, Oklahoma, Carousel, and I just fell in love with them. And I also been performing on stage since I was 5, but with ballet, you know, training in ballet. So I didn't actually do my first musical theater production until I was about 13, and a friend dragged me along to the audition, and I'm so thankful to her that she did, because the theater has become my home, and dance, especially as a part of it, is just so integral to the whole vision of the story that you're trying to create.
Oh, well, very good. Aaron?
You know, it seems like the age of 5 is a common thread. My background started as a cellist, and when I was 5, I started taking cello lessons because really because the music teacher in my kindergarten music teacher was a cellist, and I had a crush on her, and I decided to play. I saw her playing cello, and then I wanted to play cello. But actually before that, my mom always used to wake me up to the King and I soundtrack. The studio cast Hollywood Bowl with Julie Andrews as one of her last albums before she had her surgery, and Ben Kingsley and John Mauchery conducting. So even before cello, that's when I was 3, she used to wake me up with that soundtrack. And so I was training to become a cellist, and it didn't really, and I loved playing in the pits. I guess the pit would be my home, but it's sort of a dingy underground home. But it wasn't until high school when I started getting interested in conducting, and actually I didn't do my first music directing gig until I got to college, and I was a sophomore. And by that point I had sort of made the transition to studying conducting full time, and had always had this love for playing in shows growing up. So I got my first show at the Armory, actually, and then an insane amount of shows in ratio to years later. Here we are.
Well, terrific. Well, I love your tie-in with 5-year-olds. Anybody watching, if there's a 5-year-old in your life, this is the time to imprint them with the arts.
Skip Montana and go to IS1.
That's right.
You know, and I should mention, when I was at Interlochen, one of the reasons we kept going back for 5 summers was that my children were about 8 and 12, and it was the one place where they would go during the year where the hero was the first violin of the top orchestra, right? instead of the quarterback on the football team. And so,
well, there you go. I like that storyline. Let me throw this out. I mentioned in my introduction that this is a show that's taken on an iconic status, and I've got a question here for all of you. But let's start with the director. What distinguishes this production from other productions of Les Miserables?
well, I'm hoping that one of the distinguishing factors will be that it is musically very accurate. What we hear on the recordings are frequently a considerable departure from that. It is very individually interpreted, and I sometimes feel that, you know, we wouldn't suddenly jump into Shakespeare and say, you know, I'm going to change the words around. And when people sort of make those kinds of decisions on the music, I feel like somehow the artistry of the composer has been violated.
Mm-hmm. Okay, well, that's good. I understand this is being called the first adult production of Les Miserables, and what makes it adult in terms of...
Well, it's a...
It's not a warning to not bring children.
No, no, no. It's well, I should really throw that to Aaron, who's done the two productions.
Well, when Les Mis started becoming available to be put on by different youth and amateur theater groups, it was only allowed for the first, almost a decade now, it was only allowed to be performed by high schoolers. So no one over the age of 18 could be in the production, probably because it was still on tour and they didn't want any other production to, compete with the main, Broadway production and its, 8 national tours going on. So it was called the School Edition, and it shortens the show, not too much, probably by half an hour, with the original Broadway orchestrations. But the main part of that is that everyone in the show, all the adults, everyone is under the age of 18. And recently, the creators of Les Mis just released the rights for the full version to be put on, and the rights came out about a year or so ago, and we're one of the first productions the first production in Central Illinois, and one of the first productions in the state of Illinois to feature the full version. We do have children in the show, but they're playing children roles, and we have adults as in the rest of the roles as the story requires.
Oh, terrific. Whitney, what are some special challenges in choreography for this show?
Well, one challenge is still paying homage to the original production, but making it our own. There are moments within the choreography from the original that everyone knows, everyone loves, and you still want to pay homage to that, but not copy it, because you want to make it something that is yours. Another challenge is just coordinating, the large ensemble numbers when you have so many people on stage, 20 to 30 people at a time, and each person is doing a little bit something different. Coordinating all of that takes time and patience, and another challenge is, just the dance itself, the waltz sequence in the wedding. Some of our dancers are doing a great job, but they've never waltzed before, so you kind of have to start at square one with them. So.
Well, I have always admired choreographers dealing with crowd scenes of any kind. As a director, I hated staging those. Aaron, what about the score and orchestration? Any special challenges to that?
Yeah, well, I think the hardest thing is that the show, it's an opera. There's almost no dialogue, and once we start at 7:30, we keep playing until intermission, about an hour and a half later, and then after intermission we start Act 2 and we keep playing till the end. So not just for the orchestra, but for the actors on stage, it's an endurance test. It's a complex show. There's a lot of very smooth, fluid, seamless transitions that have to happen, and it's through composed. And it's very operatic. And then other than that, it's hard. It's written for contemporary. To an extent, contemporary vocal techniques, which can be difficult if you haven't worked with that before, and the score is difficult for the musicians, for the actors, for everyone involved. It's a hard show.
Okay, well, we're sitting in the opera rehearsal room at Krannert, and we'll be sitting through one of your rehearsals here, which I think we'll be able to show some clips from it. What's the number you'll be working on today, and how does that number fit in with the show?
Today we're working on a hodgepodge of different scenes. We're working on the finale to both acts. So the finale to Act 1, the song One Day More, which is one of the more familiar songs to most of the viewers probably. It's the end of Act 1, and all the characters sort of come together and talk about what they're looking forward to in the future, and what the future has in store for them. It's a really great, rousing ensemble number. And then the finale of Act 2, which I won't go into great detail about because you'll have to come see the show. So we'll be working on that finale, and then also working the beginning of Act 2, the barricade sequences and the fighting.
And today where we are in the course of a rehearsal is we're at the week where we're pulling things together.
Yes, we open in less than 2 weeks. So we're running and crunch time, and
Boy, I have a sympathetic, tight tummy there just from...
But it's so exciting to see everything start coming together.
Absolutely.
Oh.
It's true, it's true. Those adrenaline rushes are always reliable. Well, Kyle, what's one of your favorite scenes? And
Goodness. With this show, that's like asking a mother which one of her children is their favorite. There's so many things that are amazing about this role. I truly enjoyed the scenes where we see Valjean changing. The course of this entire show, he undergoes a great deal of changes, from his imprisonment at the age of 26, and then he's released 19 years later, just after his 46th birthday. And so we meet him at the beginning of the show, and he's 46 years old. He then remakes himself over the next 6 years, and we see him again at the age of 52, transforming himself into the mayor of a small town in France, Montreuil-sur-Mer. And he's kind of revolutionized the factory industry in this town, and he's become no longer is he an ex-con, he's become a beacon of hope in this city. He's become a very good man. And one of my favorite scenes is sort of that transition between the end of where he's an ex-convict, where he decides to throw away the name of Jean Valjean and the number 24601, and he literally takes this yellow ticket that shows that to everybody that he must present that he's a prisoner. And he takes it and he throws it away, and he says, Jean Valjean is nothing more, another story must begin. And that propels us into what happens, 6 years later, when he's sort of already built himself back up. So his soliloquy that leads up to that is this pull and push of what's going on inside of him. And he has several of those during the entire show. Those tend to be my favorite ones because as an actor, I tend to play, and this is just what I tend to do, I tend to play the more funny roles. I tend to do like the buffo comic comedic roles that make people laugh, and I love those roles. I would be happy doing them the rest of my life, but this is really the first, what I would consider to be dramatic role that I've ever really taken on. And so I'm extremely happy to have Stephen with me. I've worked with Stephen on, this is my 6th show with him through the opera department, and now through Champaign-Urbana Theater Company.
Poor man.
No, I mean, he's brilliant, and it's wonderful for him to give me suggestions, and then we work on them together. It's not like he just says, do this. It's that same ebb and flow that Valjean has inside of him is what goes on in a rehearsal room, and I think that is making me a stronger actor, and I'm happy to do something dramatic. I finally get to die at the end, and I don't have to have people laugh at me all the time. It's kind of nice for a change.
well, very good. Yeah, I think one of the things about this show that's made it so perennial is the uplifting message about second chances.
Absolutely.
And that's what you were talking about
Absolutely.
with the ticket. Okay, well, time's tight, but I wanted to ask you about casting decisions. What do you look for in an actor? What are the most challenging roles to cast? How do you get the right combination of skills for tough roles? And what might be the toughest role you had to deal with?
Well, I think what I look for in auditions are the choices that people make. And one of the challenges is, of course, when you're doing a show such as this, an opera such as this, is so well known that people have heard it, they've listened to it, and they regurgitate just what they've heard. And it almost becomes a mental muscle memory thing that they just automatically go to that. And breaking them of those habits is I look for that opportunity, that somebody who's flexible enough, you give them a suggestion and they can move with it.
Can you see it again for the first time, kind of thing? Mm-hmm. Thanks for watching Art Now. I again want to thank our guests, company members of the CUTC production of Les Miserables, Director Stephen Fiel, Music Director Aaron Kaplan, Choreographer Whitney Hayvice, and actor Kyle Polio. Les Miserables opens August 1st, and it will run through August 11th at the Parkland College Theater. And you can learn more about this production at the website that you'll see here on the screen. We hope you've enjoyed today's show, and we hope it will inspire you to explore the local art scene and to make your own art now.